want to ask you about another incident from last weekend, Owen Farrell and Luke Pearce. And I'm sure lots of people, again, have seen this. If not, it's worth checking it out and having a Google or a Twitter search. Owen Farrell reminds Luke Pearce that there's been 3 penalties around the mall. And Luke Pearce tells him, I can count. And then Owen Farrell snaps back at him, don't be rude to me. You don't have to be rude to me. What did you make of that exchange on?
Bit precious, I felt. Like players are chipping away at referees the entire time in games these days is one of the aspects I haven't loved since probably the game went pro, that there used to be a deep respect for the players, and obviously any lip or chat to referee was generally admonished with a penalty or marching them 10 yards. So I don't like that aspect of the game. I think there's obviously such a massive spotlight on referees now, isn't there? Like every decision has been analyzed to the nth detail, and the other headline was some of the stuff, the TMO in the Rugby World Cup final. Some of the threats that he received post World Cup final were just desperate to see, wasn't it? So yeah, precious from Farrell. Like if you ever listen to a ref mic with Farrell involved in a game, he is definitely very, very vocal, albeit a lot of time to his own team, but he's not shy in terms of questioning the referee. So I felt it was precious from him, and good on the referee for a little bit of lip back.
Yeah, I have to agree. It does feel a bit rich given all the heat that referees take from likes of Farrell and every single player. We've mentioned before on a few pods, just when you get a game without match commentary over it and you can hear the amount of chipping away and screaming at them and demanding penalties and all sorts of stuff going on, it must be really fatiguing. So for them to have the odd quip back, I think is understandable. And it was interesting that it came on a weekend where we saw a bit more of this stuff, even in the URC. Gianluca Niecki, obviously, in the Connacht game, punishing JJ Hanrahan for kind of admonishing him for not showing his cards. And of course, in the Munster game, the Leinster-Munster game, Chris Busby seemed to have absolutely no time at all on, unless he felt there was a valid chat. But he was literally ignoring players at times or telling them to walk away. He got Gibson Park for dissent and also for not giving the ball back. Would you like to see more of this, or do you worry that it maybe gets into too confrontational relationship then?
Yeah, you definitely don't want the confrontational component. You want obviously a collaborative approach in games, but I think it's probably just gone too far in favor of the players, isn't it? That they seem to be far more directive. And I think a little bit of we've seen the referees depowered, haven't we? Like by virtue of the TMO, they've been depowered. And as I said, the attitude of players towards referee has deteriorated really, and they're obviously very influential on the younger players watching the game. So I think there's an onus on them to obviously there's such fine margins in games and there's so much high pressure, but I think there's just a better way of doing it. And I would like to see the referees empowered a bit more and lay down the marker and not be afraid to give a sin bin if required, just to try and set the tone early and just cut out the bullshit. Because as I said, we're starting to lean a little bit into the soccer space, which I think what set rugby apart in years gone by is the respect held to referees. So you'd like to see us probably veering back in that direction.
I'm frankly disgusted, to be honest, at the way it's gone with the match officials. You mentioned Tom Foley there and the death threats in the wake of the World Cup. And actually, any match official I've met recently, and this is not an exaggeration, the majority of them have had death threats as well of some sort online, maybe not direct, maybe not specifics, but disgusting, horrible messages to them and most of their families as well. People online on Twitter seem to find their wives or their partners and send messages that way as well. It's absolutely disgusting and really sickens me in terms of general society, not just rugby. So I agree. Anything that just brings back a bit more respect in the game for referees who have an unbelievably tough job, who don't get as well paid in any way as players, as coaches, and other people around the game, and who, from every single one of them that I've met, just love the game, absolutely delight in the sport itself, but are really finding it difficult to deal with all that kind of stuff away from the game. And I know that's a social media problem as much as anything, but it really is disgusting. And it needs people within the game to kind of set the tone and show that respect. So hopefully we see a lot more of that moving forward. And as you say, the authorities need to be firm in sanctioning it if it's not going to happen.